The village of Bawaka had always been a place where promises held weight, where words were binding, and families thrived on the strength of the promises they kept. Among the most respected elders in the village was Tariq, a man who had once been a young, ambitious leader, beloved by his people. He was married to Zainab, a kind and gentle woman who gave everything to her family. Together they had 2 children, Amina, a bright and curious girl, and Malik, a mischievous but loving boy. Tariq and Zainab had shared a beautiful bond, their love rooted deeply in the values of their village. Yet, like many stories in this village, theirs was also a story of sacrifice. Tariq had made a promise to Zainab when they were still young lovers. He promised her that, no matter the challenges, he would always be there for her and their children. He would never let them go through life alone. Uncle Juma recalls how Tariq's promise seemed unbreakable at first. In those early years of their marriage, Tariq would always return home before dusk, bringing with him the warmth of the day's work and the promise of a future that would be better for their children. Zainab, in her quiet strength, worked tirelessly to keep their home, and her love for Tariq was evident in every meal she prepared, every cloth she wove, and every prayer she whispered. But as time passed, the demands of the village began to change. The world outside Bawaka started to encroach on their lives. New opportunities arose, and Tariq, ever ambitious, found himself drawn away from the village. He began traveling to the city to conduct business, leaving Zainab and the children behind for weeks at a time. With each journey, the promises he had once made to his wife became more distant. The villagers still saw Tariq as a leader, a man of integrity, but they also noticed that his absence from his family began to take a toll. Zainab, though always smiling, grew weary, her once vibrant spirit dimming under the weight of raising 2 children on her own. Amina, growing older, noticed the cracks in her parents' relationship. She would often sit by the fire at night, listening to her mother hum quietly, wondering when her father would return. Uncle Juma remembers the fateful day when Zainab fell ill, her body worn down from years of working without rest. Tariq had been away for nearly a month, and when word reached him, he hurried back home, only to find Zainab barely able to get out of bed. She smiled faintly at his arrival, but the look in her eyes spoke volumes. "My love," she whispered, "I have waited for you, but my heart is tired now. Your promise, it was everything to me." Tariq, overwhelmed by guilt, promised that things would change. He vowed to never leave again, to be the husband and father he had promised to be. But it was too late. Zainab passed away shortly after, her last breath a quiet release, leaving Tariq to grapple with the weight of a promise he had failed to keep. In the months that followed, Tariq's life fell apart. The village, once a place of unity and purpose, felt empty without Zainab's presence. His children, now teenagers, struggled to find their own place in a world that had lost its anchor. Amina, like her mother, had a quiet strength, but she carried the burden of her mother's legacy, while Malik rebelled, his heart filled with resentment for his father. Uncle Juma reflects on how the promise that Tariq made was ultimately broken by his own ambition. Tariq, now an older man, still walks the paths of Bawaka, his face lined with regret. He has become a shadow of the man he once was, unable to regain the trust of his children or the village. But there is a moment of redemption. Amina, now an adult, comes to her father. She remembers the man who once promised to protect their family, and seeks to understand the reasons for his neglect. Tariq, broken and remorseful, explains that he thought providing material wealth would be enough to make up for his absence. He had forgotten that love, presence, and time were the true treasures. With her forgiveness, Amina helps him find a way to reconnect with the village, taking on the mantle of leadership that Tariq had once held. Together they rebuild what was lost, though the memory of Zainab's gentle spirit remains a silent guide. The story concludes with Uncle Juma looking toward the horizon, the sun setting over the village of Bawaka. He speaks softly, almost to himself, as he reflects on the lessons of Tariq's life. Promises, he says, are like the roots of a tree. You may wander far, but if you break the roots, the tree will fall. It is only when we tend to them with care that we grow strong.